Guys, I just took my first trade off of a 1 hour imbalance. I'll show y'all the trade in a bit when I get to the crib. I just got off of work right now and finna get to the crib, shower, do all that good stuff. Just waiting on Uber and shit right now. Just got back to the crib. Took my second trade. The first trade I lost, risking 500. Took my second trade, risking 550 point stop loss on the second trade. I used 100 points on the first trade. Both shorts, but the second trade I took off of London and Asian highs, looking for a retracement to the 1 hour imbalance, which is like 150 points. So I'm aiming for a 1 to 3, risking 50 points. I just move my stops to TP1 once I hit TP2, and then just hold until TP3, and whatever happens, happens. Just get out the shower. I took my second trade was off London and Asia highs, risking 50 points, aiming for 150, which was a 1 hour imbalance. I moved my stops to TP1 once I hit the TP2, and then I hopped in the shower. Once I hopped in the shower, I just left it, because there's no reason I shouldn't be touching my trade unless I'm breaking it even or moving my stop loss to like break even or TP1 if I'm aiming for a TP3. Other than that, I shouldn't be touching my trades at all. Just finished up the Bible study session. Basically, the notes I got for today says that your ways will be your reward. So basically, don't do something else to somebody that you wouldn't want them to do to you. Could be one form. Second note is have no images except for the cross. The only image that you're okay to have, like according to the Bible, is the cross. That's it. Nothing else. Then it talks about when things start to go better for you and God starts to bless you, don't forget about God. You know, still talk to Him, still pray, still do all the things you were doing when things weren't going as great as you wished. Still talk to Him the same way. Don't forget about Him. It also says that there's salvation with only God. So only God is the one true God, and He's the only one that can save your soul. And also, don't rebel against God. Like the Bible, you know, we got the 10 Commandments or whatever. You just follow the word. Be a good person. Be an overall, like, you know, honest person. And don't rebel against God. Don't do shit that He wouldn't want you to do. Obviously, we all gonna slip from time to time, but try your best not to do shit that He wouldn't want you to do. It also says be ashamed if you're not working daily, because what my personal understanding is, if you're not working daily on the things that you need to be working on, how do you expect to thrive? How do you expect to live? How do you expect to get to your desired reality? How do you expect to get to your goals and stuff? You have to work. Whether you're working for yourself, working for somebody else, you have to work. It has to get done. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or ways around it. There's no easy way out. It also says turn to God before it's too late, and you should do so with fasting, weeping, and mourning. And I don't understand the weeping and mourning part, but I understand the fasting part. And to me, basically, when you fast, it allows you to hear the voice of God much easier. Also, people will say, like, during times of trouble, people will say, like, how could God exist, or where is God when He lets all these bad things happen? And basically what I took from this is they don't understand, and their faith is weak. That's why people say things like this, like, where's God? How does He let things like this happen? Their faith is weak, pretty much one, and they don't understand what He's doing. We don't understand the ways of God, and He works in very mysterious ways. So take that as you will. And don't be scared. Be grateful and happy, because God does great things. And also, if you're like living a life of sin or whatever, like you want things to change, even if you're not living a life of sin, but you just don't have the circumstances you want, call on the name of the Lord and you will be delivered. Pray, believe, have faith, and just, you know, wait. You don't see it in a week or a month, it doesn't mean it's not coming. Just everything has a time and a place. Every seed has a certain amount of time before it sprouts, and depending on what your goal is, it could take longer because it's a bigger plant. We'll say a bigger ideal or a bigger goal, we'll call it a plant for this sake, if y'all can understand what I'm trying to say, right? You plant the ideal, which would be the seed, and then you wait for it to sprout, which would be the steps leading up until the achievement of the desired reality. So I'm reading pages 215 through 224, and this first page right here was pretty good, and I just had to share it with you guys. And basically it talks about how the greatest and most powerful men known in history were inspired by the urge for sex, and they used the sexual energy to help build themselves and create their legacy. But it also talks about how the possession and the strong urge for sex alone will not make you a genius, because if you overuse this in the physical form, you'll be lowered to the animalistic natures, and you will be brought to a lower state of vibration, basically. And in order to achieve success, basically what you gotta do is just take this energy, harness it, and redirect it to other forms of desire, and you must put the work in also. Like, you have to take action. Just have to take action every day, put the work in to get where you want to get. So it talks about also most people don't succeed before the age of 40, and even more commonly, most people don't really succeed until the age of 50 or past it, because most people they waste their sexual energy more than they should, and before they realize this, it's like, they're already to that age. Basically, they come to find out at after 40 or 50 that they could have harnessed this energy all along and used it to build themselves and their legacies. It also talks about how human emotions are the reason that we do the things that we do, because we're driven by an emotion, a feeling, which is pretty much true. And it talks about how Edgar Allan Poe, and it also says James Whitcomb Riley, a few of these people from history, writers or whatnot, they did their, for example right here, these writers specifically, they did their best writing off of alcohol, which is another mind stimuli. So it doesn't have to be the urge for sex, which is probably the best one. But right here it does talk about how these people did destroy themselves in the end when they were using things such as alcohol and drugs. And basically it says that a mind stimulant will either temporarily or permanently increase the vibrations of thought. And back onto the topic of your sexual energy, you can usually tell when somebody's low on sexual energy. Basically, they've been whatever, fucking bitches or busting nuts or whatever. You can tell by the way they hold themselves, the tone of their voice, the way they hold themselves, their posture, the way they shake your hand, all that. And basically people who have their sexual energy and they've held on to it, they have high enthusiasm, they have high energy. And you'll notice this, when you go long periods of time on semen retention, you'll notice that you have higher energy too, and you'll be more enthusiastic about things. This page 221 basically also talks about how intemperance in sex and your habits of sex can be just as detrimental as bad habits of drinking and eating. And it basically says that humans are the only animal in nature that violates nature's purpose when it comes to the connection of sex. And every other animal besides us humans, they have sex only during their mating season. And every intelligent person knows that basically too much of anything is a bad thing. Whether it comes down to drinking, eating, sex, or whatever it is, just anything of too much of anything can be a bad thing. And this last page talks about
how negative emotions can be your downfall and positive emotions can be your like upbringing. And your mind also thrives upon your dominating thoughts. So basically you become what you think about the most. So if you think about positive and you think about the things that you want to happen, the things that you want to become more than you think about the things that could go wrong, then more than likely the positive things that you think about, if you're thinking about them more often than the negative things, then eventually that will become your reality. So you just have to dwell on the positive thoughts more often than not. And yeah, pretty much it.